ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishnapreshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Okay, so sharing my screen and page number 64. Let's see. Yeah, so last time we started learning steadiness in Krishna consciousness. So like steadiness means like how to maintain our Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is giving a lot of very good examples. So in briefly, he told that bhoga and tyaga, like sense enjoyment. Bhoga means like to enjoy something, and tyaga means to renounce something. Both are actually not possible for us because uh, we are not the enjoyers. So bhoga is not applicable to us because if somebody wants to enjoy something, without having like ownership on that particular thing, then it is like a sort of stealing. And in one sense, we don't have ownership of anything in this world because everything belongs to Krishna. So that's what Prabhupada explained, that we cannot be a bhogi or enjoyer. And tyaga means to renounce. So since nothing belongs to us, what will we renounce? So we cannot even become a tyagi. So bhog and tyag both are materially like they are materially explainable terms. Like somebody might say that, oh, I just sacrificed these many dollars. Okay, but they were after all not yours in spiritual sense, right? So that's why Prabhupada said that both is not applicable to us. And yeah, so this one covered all that, and he gives various examples also. Yeah, so such claims are false because when we come into the world, we come in empty handed. When we go out empty handed. What then is the meaning of bhog and tyag? In the light of actual facts, they have no actual meaning. Bhog is thievery, and tyag, renunciation of what never belonged to us, is a form of lunacy. In this regard, Krishna gives us this direction: Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Although we have created different types of religions based on Bhog and Tyag, we are thus advised to give up all of them and to surrender unto Krishna. So, enjoyment and renunciation propensities are there in materialistic people, and therefore, um, so many religions are there depending on these tendencies. So many religions have sprouted from like different people as per their interest and all. So, therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita towards the end. This is Bhagavad Gita's last instruction that Krishna is saying. Krishna's last instruction in Bhagavad Gita, that just abandon all varieties of religion. So religion in one sense means our duty as well, because many times the religion are these different, Hindu, Muslim, and all those things that we say, those are definitely there. But other than that, also we feel that so many duties are there. Okay, although they may not be like so important, because for the in the name of duty we don't practice sometimes, like maybe somebody is has promised 16 rounds a day of chanting, but they are not able to complete that many number of rounds, because they want to run around thinking that okay, this is their duty, this is their duty. Sometimes personally with me also this happens, that oh, I feel that today I woke up late, so maybe I'll not do chanting first as the first thing. Maybe I'll just cook because kids will get hungry, this that, I'm just thinking so many things. And then it has a like a domino effect, and ultimately chanting goes on the back burner, and it only starts late evening. So that is very frustrating many times. So we should properly understand the priorities. So therefore it is very very necessary that we should understand what does it mean to surrender to Krishna. And this is not very easy to understand, because the ideal surrender is the surrender of gopis, who were, even when they were nursing their child and they heard Krishna's flute in the middle of the night, then they will leave their child on the floor and they will just run to Krishna without even thinking that, oh, what the society will say, what their husbands would say, or nothing. And that doesn't mean that, they were like callous or careless ladies. They knew that, if we will satisfy Krishna, then all the living entities will be satisfied. So in this regard, there is a story of Durvasa Rishi, that when these Pandavas were in exile, so Duryodhan knew that where are they staying, and not when they were incognito, but when they were in exile. So Duryodhan just plotted a plan to create some danger for Pandavas. So he told Durvasa Rishi that go to the Pandavas and just have dinner there or something, prasadam there, and go with all your disciples at this time when Draupadi has eaten her food. So they had Pandavas had a Akshay Patra given by Surya Dev to them, and because they didn't have any resources for cooking and all, so that Akshay Patra used to produce food items, prasadam. So that will produce prasadam as much as you want until Draupadi has eaten. So once Draupadi has eaten, that day it will not produce anything. So that's how it was. And there is a story behind that also, but we are not gonna go in all those details. Um, so Durvasa Rishi agreed to that, and he came to Pandava's hut, and he said that I have come, and these are all my 60,000 disciples, and we will have prasadam now, but we are first going to take a bath in the river. So Draupadi got very, very stressed out about this, that what is going to happen. And Durvasa Rishi is known to curse on a slightest provocation. So all the Pandavas got very, very like concerned that what is going to happen now. And Draupadi, like whenever any problems came to their lives, they always turned to Krishna. Even in happiness, also, they were always turning to Krishna. Whatever was happening in their life, problem or happiness or whatever, they were always thinking of Krishna. So Draupadi just called out for Krishna that Krishna, please help. Like if this Durasa, I have already eaten, and now this Akshay Patra is not going to produce anything. And if Durvasa Rishi comes, then what will happen? How are we going to feed these 60,000 disciples of him? And then Krishna came. He just appeared there, and he said, Draupadi, whatever is there in Akshay Patra, just give me. And she said, Krishna, I told you there is nothing. But he said, just give me, show me the Patra. and there was a little like different stories say different things. There some say that there was a just grain of rice stuck there, and some stories say there was a spinach leaf stuck there, whatever it was. So Krishna ate it, I mean, just he accepted it, and as soon as it went in, and Krishna said, oh, I'm full. And then as Krishna was satisfied, this Durvasa Rishi and all the disciples started feeling so full that they felt embarrassed that, oh, we are suddenly feeling so full, and they started burping also. And they started telling each other that if we now go to Yudhishthir Maharaj, and if they have prepared a big feast, then we cannot even honor the prasadam. So what should we do? So they all just leave from there, they run away actually. so the why did I tell this story? That by satisfying Krishna, all souls are satisfied. So therefore these gopis also knew that if we will satisfy Krishna, then all these children, they are all Krishna's parts and parcels. So they knew that philosophy very well also. So when renunciation is recommended in Bhagavad Gita, it refers to renunciation of everything that we falsely claim to possess, right? So whatever is mine, I'm thinking, that is connected with this body, that is anyways gonna end with this body, right? So that is not really mine. Otherwise I could have controlled it forever, but it's not possible. A child may take $100 bill from his father and try to keep it along, although he may not know how to use it. The father may beg the child, dear boy, kindly give it to me. The child does not know that money actually belongs to the father, nor does he know that he had best hand it to his father, for he simply does not know how to use it. Similarly, Krishna says, renounce your work for me, renounce your wealth and property for me, right? So this is what we are supposed to do. But of course we have dependents, or we have to maintain our house and our kids. So for that purpose, definitely we have to have money. So like a little bit donation every month we can offer, or on festivities we can offer, so like that also. So that way it causes detachment from the money when we selflessly give. When we selflessly do anything, then that causes detachment with that particular thing. Very easily we can feel detached. So Krishna is not a beggar, for everything belongs to him, but he does not treat us like small children. Compliance to his request to give everything to him is called tyag, right? So now real meaning of tyag is being explained, that compliance to request of Krishna to give everything to him, at least mentally we can renounce it, right? If not physically, because if physically it's not possible, where will we stay? And the inclement weathers in America, so that is not practical, that is fanatical actually. But mentally we should have this knowledge that actually nothing belongs to me. Even the money that we are earning, that we are earning through abilities given by Krishna only, right? If somebody is doing some mechanical work, then ability or strength is given by Krishna. If we are doing some mental work and are earning money, then intelligence is given by Krishna, right? So therefore it is very important to note that ability and everything is actually given by Krishna. So there is nothing that I can claim for myself. So that is the actual understanding, and then that way we can mentally renounce. At least mentally we know. Yeah. So Mataji, if you would like to read, you can let me know.
Sure, Mataji.
Yeah.
I can
So
read.
you can continue from here.
From
Austerity.
austerity, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Austerity, celibacy, equanimity, and charity are all required for realization of the ultimate or absolute truth. Krishna consciousness is not concerned with the relative truth but with the absolute. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva offers his obeisances to the supreme absolute truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi. He offers his respects not to the relative categorical truths, but to the summum bonum, the absolute truth. It is the duty of Brahmanas to practice those qualities by which the absolute truth can be realized. Brahmanas must be qualified by practicing cleanliness, truthfulness, control of the mind and the senses, simplicity, and by cultivating faith in the Vedas and particularly in Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna says, I am the Supreme Lord, we have to accept him with faith, not foolishly, but with full knowledge and practically apply his acceptance in our daily life. A Brahmana is not created by birth, but by education, practice, and knowledge. It is a question of birth. It is
Not a
not a
question.
question of birth, but quality, as pointed out by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vivagas
Vibhagasha.
विभागश तस्य कर्तारम अपि माम विद्य अकर्तारम अव्ययम.
Mhm.
According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non doer, being unchangeable. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 13. One must not only have the qualities of a Brahmana, but should also work as a Brahmana, for one's qualities are tested by his work. If one is a qualified engineer but simply sits down at home and does not work, what is his value? Similarly, unless one works as a Brahmana, there is no value to his simply saying, I am a Brahmana. One must therefore work as a Brahmana by fully engaging in the service of Parabrahman, Krishna, the Supreme Brahman. How can service to the absolute truth be executed? Yamena niyamena cha. The practice of yoga or linking with the Supreme is based on the principles of regulation and control. Regulation cannot be executed without control. Therefore, one must be thoughtful and purify himself. If one wants to pass an examination, he has to go to school, follow the principles of the school, and take some pains in his study. And then gradually he comes to be successful. If he plays all day on the street, how can he expect success? Therefore, in the process being explained by Sukadev Goswami, the first necessity is tapasya, austerity. Even if austerity and brahmacharya are painful, because we want to be unrestricted as soon as we are regulated, what appeared to be painful is in practice not painful.
Yeah, so here I just wanted to
Yeah, Mrs.
recall that
Uh-huh.
this is the topic of this lesson, learning steadiness in Krishna consciousness. And these points are very relevant, what Prabhupada is saying, that how a Brahmana should act. And for that matter, Krishna has created these four divisions of society as per the inclination of our work or the qualities that we have. So there are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Krishna has created them. And there can be mixes also. But these days, we are not so much like many people are born in Brahmana families, but their inclinations and their own qualities are maybe like Kshatriya or a Vaishya, right? So everybody nowadays thinks in terms of money and their benefits and all that. So that way, by force of time, the things are changing, but still we all have some inclinations, and therefore the whole society is actually divided into these four categories in broadly speaking. The Vaishya are mercantile class of family, like business people. Kshatriyas are who are administrators, or like who are police, army, or those kind of people. Brahmanas are mostly those people who are more interested in deity worship and learning for themselves than teaching others, like that. So they are generally school teachers or like that. And Shudras are the worker class. So Prabhupada is actually explaining that if you are acting like in a particular varna, then you should act like that. It's not that by birth you are that. So, who is a Brahmana who worships the Supreme Brahman and who knows the Supreme Brahman? He is a Brahmana, right? So, Therefore, Prabhupada is establishing here that we should act according to that particular varna in which we find ourselves. Like that, we have to decide that what are our interests and inclinations, that guna and karma, right? So accordingly, we can see like whether we fall into this or that category, and accordingly we should do our work and offer it to Krishna. So like austerity is a very very important aspect of this uh, like the first necessity. Therefore, in process being explained by Shukdev Goswami, the first necessity is tapasya, austerity, right? Like Prabhupada is saying that if somebody is if he wants to pass the examination, so if he is playing all day, then how can he expect success, right? So similarly, if we are expecting success in Krishna consciousness, so sometimes what happens that kids will chant for a few days and then they will say, Mama, nothing is helping, nothing is changing. So they stop chanting. It doesn't happen like that. So for us also, we need to understand that if we want to progress in Krishna consciousness and if we want to understand actually what is Krishna consciousness, then long term following of the process is required, and Krishna also sees our faith. So process is very strong. Process has everything into it. Process has all power into it. It has a power to give the results in a second. That's what Prabhupada said. But actually, our faith counts a lot. If we have faith in something, that today I will get out of my house, I'll get in the car, and I will definitely reach to the office, then it happens, right? But if we have doubts are haunting us about something, then it's very hard to navigate through that and reach to the success. So therefore it is very very important. So yeah, Mataji, please carry on. Maybe we will just read one more page and we will end there.
Okay, Mataji.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are two classes of men, those who are sober, dhira, and those who are extravagant, adhira. When one, in spite of provocation or in spite of the presence of a source of mental agitation, can remain steady in his position, he is called dhira. An example of a dhira is given by Kalidasa Pandit, a great Sanskrit poet, who wrote a book called Kumara Sambhava, wherein he has given an example concerning Lord Shiva. It appears that when the demigods were fighting the demons and were being defeated, they decided that they could be saved by a commander in chief born from the semina of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, however, was in meditation, and to acquire the needed semina was very difficult. They therefore sent Parvati, a young girl who appeared before Lord Shiva and worshipped his genitals. Although this young girl sat before Lord Shiva and touched his genitals, Lord Shiva was steady in his meditation. Kalidasa says, here is an example of a dhira, for despite a young girl's touching his genitals, he was undisturbed. Similarly, someone sent a young prostitute to disturb Haridasa Thakur. And upon hearing her appeals for intercourse, Haridasa Thakur said, yes, your proposal is very nice. Please sit down and let me finish my chanting, and then we shall enjoy. Morning came and the prostitute became impatient. But Haridasa Thakur replied, I am very sorry, I could not finish my chanting. Come tonight again. The prostitute came for 3 nights, and on the third night she fell down at his feet, confessed her intentions, and pleaded with him. I was induced to perform this act by a man who is your enemy. Kindly excuse me. Haridasa Thakur then replied, I know all about that, but I allowed you to come here for 3 days so that you could be converted and become a devotee. Now take these chanting beads and go on chanting. I am leaving this place. Here is another example of a dhira who has control of his body, deha, words, vacha, and intelligence, buddhi. One's body, words, and intelligence should be controlled by one who is dhira and who actually knows the principle of religion.
So yeah, again, my thought is going to the title of this, that how to maintain or steadiness in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is establishing all these points, that first of all, we cannot enjoy anything and we cannot renounce anything, because we must have this understanding is nothing actually belongs to us. And then like whatever identity we think of ourselves, like, a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, because currently we are in like a materialistic world. So we are with a body, so we fall in some category, so we should act accordingly. And then he is explaining Dhira and Adhira. So even this is beyond those categories of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, because Dhira means like particular characteristics, that he is not provoked even like even if there is provocation or agitation around him. So he explained by these two examples of Haridas Thakur and Lord Shiva. And uh, Adhira is one who gets agitated. So we will continue from this next time.
Sure, Mataji.
Yeah. So if you have any sharing, uh, if you would like to share.
I mean, the only thing I feel like is for in terms of Tyaga, this thing I feel like the more you are rigid on like I want this, it feels like it is gonna go away. The moment you are like you give up and it's like if it is for me, it will come to me and let it on Krishna. Then I feel like there is no resistance from us. Then things flow easily. Then we trying like, oh, I have to control, I have to do this.
So true. Yeah, but in practical life,
It's
having this knowledge is very good, and we should have at least, because somewhere it should start. But we see that in practical life, when it comes to certain stressful situation, it becomes very hard, and we might give in to anger or frustration, or certain negative emotions, which might happen like in workplace or somewhere. But
yeah.
yes, having this knowledge and recalling this knowledge again and again will definitely help us practice that. And Krishna actually is pleased with these efforts, because we can offer something to Krishna that is good, that is not something like very ordinary, that is also very extraordinary. But
Hmm.
when we are like working on a subtle level, like on the level of our heart and mind, to purify it deliberately, like as you said that okay, I'm in this situation, but I will relinquish my control, and I will just let the things flow as Krishna wants them to flow, and I will not react to it. So this takes a lot of effort, but yes, this is what we are supposed to be doing. And then Krishna actually sees that, oh, how much like if an elderly person is saying that, oh, this child is just dependent on me, I have to take care of him. So that's how it happens, that Krishna, I'm just dependent on you. So then Krishna takes over complete control.
Yeah.
But that's a very beautiful sharing, Mataji.
Thank you,
So
Mataji.
thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Yeah, I'll
Hare
see you
Krishna. I
hopefully
see you.
next Wednesday.
Yes, definitely, Mataji.
Okay,
Hare Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.